Welcome back to Vintage Noise, everyone. Great to have you with us here on the channel.
Yeah, good to be here.
Today, we're looking at a car that, well, it really sits at a crucial point in German automotive history. We're talking about the Mercedes-Benz W02.
Ah, yes, the W02. Its story really spans from, 1926 right through to 1933 for the main model, but its influence definitely stretched further.
Exactly. And you have to picture the scene. This wasn't just another new car. This was the first mid-size, six-cylinder, 2-liter car that the brand-new Daimler-Benz company unveiled.
Right after that huge merger between Daimler and Benz and C in July 1926.
Precisely. They showed it off at the Berlin Motor Show in October 26. So the stakes were incredibly high. This car was meant to be sort of the foundation of the new merged company's lineup.
And the technical director behind it was none other than Ferdinand Porsche.
Who was developing it incredibly quickly, wasn't he? Alongside the bigger W03 and this W01 prototype that actually never made it to production.
That's right, developed in haste. And unfortunately, that haste showed. The records are pretty clear.
High drama, right from the start. The early cars, well, they had serious teething problems. That's the polite term used.
Keeping problems, never a good sign.
Not at all. And these technical issues immediately sparked this really bitter conflict. You had Porsche on one side and the Daimler-Benz chairman Wilhelm Kissel on the other.
Wow. So right out of the gate, trouble.
Big trouble. It got so bad, actually, that Porsche's contract, it wasn't renewed beyond 1928.
He was forced out.
Essentially, yes. And it led to some pretty nasty legal battles later on. Acrimonious litigation, as the sources put it.
So the car that was supposed to launch the modern Mercedes-Benz range was born from, engineering issues and boardroom fights.
Pretty much a very rocky start.
Which really sets up what we want to explore today. How did this car, which was frankly flawed enough and controversial enough to get its famous designer fired, manage to survive?
And not just survive, but navigate the coming economic storm, the Great Depression. Right. And transform itself into the essential car for Mercedes-Benz through the late 20s and early 30s. It's quite a turnaround story.
It really is. And that tension, that sort of difficult birth, it's even reflected in its original name.
The Mercedes-Benz 838 PS.
Exactly. That naming system was common in Germany then, and it tells you two key things straight away.
Okay, let's break that down. The 38, that's the horsepower, right?
The manufacturer's claimed output, 38 Fernsterk, or metric horsepower. Pretty straightforward.
But the 8, that's the interesting one, tax horsepower.
That's the one. It determined how much annual part tax you'd pay. And the German system, which had been defined way back in 1906, was, quite specific.
It wasn't just an estimate.
No, not at all. It was based on a formula that used both the engine's cylinder bore and its stroke.
Ah, so it directly related engine size, the actual displacement, to the tax category.
Precisely. A direct linear relationship. If you made the engine bigger, the tax went up predictably.
Which must have put real constraints on engineers. They weren't just designing for power, but for these, tax brackets. Made that 8 very significant for buyers.
Absolutely. It shaped engine design significantly.
Okay, so let's dig into the specs of that first 1926 model, the Type 838 PS. What was under the hood?
You had a 1,988cc inline six-cylinder engine. Pretty standard stuff for the time, using a side valve configuration.
Reliable, I imagine, but not exactly a powerhouse.
No, it produced that claimed 38 PS, or about 37 horsepower in imperial terms, at 3,400 RPM.
And top speed?
Around 75 kilometers per hour, which is, 47 miles per hour. Definitely positioned as a sensible midsize car.
Okay. And the drivetrain?
Power went to the rear wheels, as you'd expect, through a 3-speed manual transmission.
3 speeds, standard then. But you mentioned something about the brakes being notable.
Yes. This is quite interesting for 26. The brakes were mechanical, operated by rod linkages, no hydraulics yet, but they acted on all 4 wheels.
Ah, 4-wheel braking. That was genuinely quite advanced for safety back then, wasn't it?
It really was a definite plus point, even if the rest of the car had issues.
And what about bodies? What could you get?
Well, Mercedes offered a range of standard factory bodies. You had the open-top Tourenwagen, sort of a torpedo style, then 2-door and 4-door limousine sedans, or saloons, essentially.
And cabriolets, too, I assume.
A choice of 2, yes. Plus, you could always buy just the bare chassis if you wanted a custom body from an independent coach builder. Lots of options.
But as we know, those options didn't quite save it initially. We had the technical teething problems we mentioned.
Right, which fueled that conflict with Porsche.
But then there was the other big issue, the commercial side. the pricing.
Oh, absolutely. If the technical issues weren't enough, the initial pricing strategy was, well, let's just say inappropriate.
Meaning too expensive.
Much too expensive for what it was, apparently. They aimed too high.
And when they realized their mistake,
They tried to fix it by cutting the price quite significantly. Actually, between 500 and 1,000 marks were knocked off.
you'd think that would help sales, right? A big discount.
You would think, but it completely backfired.
How so?
Instead of seeing it as a bargain, the market read it as a sign of desperation. Rumors started flying that the 838 PS was basically a run-out model.
Oh no, like they were just trying to get rid of existing stock before replacing it.
Exactly that. So the price cut, meant to solve a problem, actually created this perception that the car was already obsolete or failing.
So technical drama, boardroom fights, and a commercial misstep. It really piled up.
It did. And all this culminated in Porsche leaving at the end of 1928. The W02, or the 838 PS as it was known then, was in serious trouble. It needed saving.
And that brings us to 1929, a pivotal year. The car gets relaunched,
Relaunched and renamed the Mercedes-Benz Typ Stuttgart 200.
which, just for clarity for everyone listening, is the car we often refer to using its internal works number, W02, just to avoid all the name confusion over the years.
Right, and the person credited with turning it around was Hans Nabel. He took over development responsibility from January 1929.
And what did Nebel do? Did he just fix the early problems?
He did more than just fix them. The records say he modernized and cultivated the car. Interestingly, he didn't actually increase the peak horsepower. It stayed at 38 PS.
Still 38 PS, so what changed?
He made the engine work better, more efficiently. That peak power was now achieved at a slightly lower engine speed, 3,200 RPM instead of 3,400.
Okay, bit more relaxed.
But the really crucial change was inside the engine. He significantly increased the compression ratio.
Ah, that makes a difference. From what to what?
From a pretty low 5.1 up to a much healthier 6.2.1.
That's quite a jump. That would make the engine feel much more responsive, right? Better torque, maybe better fuel economy?
Exactly. Even with the same peak power figure, raising the compression like that really transforms how an engine feels and performs day to day. They also swapped the carburetor, out went the Zenith, in came a Solex 30 MOH LT.
So a much improved engine. What about the rest of the driving experience? Did the transmission get an upgrade?
It did, optionally. The standard 3-speed manual gearbox remained, but now buyers could specify a 4-speed manual.
A 4-speed? Was that just closer ratios?
Actually, no. The fourth gear was effectively an overdrive. It had a ratio of 1 to 0.76.
An overdrive? That's significant for cruising speed.
Hugely significant. It meant the car could cruise more comfortably at higher speeds, and it allowed Mercedes to officially raise the listed top speed to 80 kilometers per hour.
Which is 50 miles per hour. So that overdrive pushed it over that psychological barrier, made it feel like a more capable car for longer journeys.
Absolutely. It changed the car's character from just functional to genuinely usable for touring.
Did the relaunch change the body options much?
A little streamlining happened. They dropped the 2-door limousine variant and also a small delivery van version called the L34.
So the 4-door limousine really became the main seller.
Became the mainstay, yes.
Yeah.
And just to add context, also in 1929, Mercedes introduced the W11.
The W11.
Yeah, the Typ Stuttgart 260. It was basically the same improved W02 chassis and body, but fitted with a slightly larger 2.6-liter engine. So more choice for buyers needing a bit more power.
Got it. So Nibel's changes really revitalized the W02 platform.
They absolutely did. And just in time, too, because this car became critically important for the company's survival.
You really can't overstate its role during those tough economic years, can you?
No, you can't. The W02, particularly in its Typ Stuttgart 200 form, was the absolute backbone of Mercedes-Benz production between roughly 1927 and 1931.
Which, as you mentioned earlier, lines up almost perfectly with the start of the Great Depression and that incredibly difficult period for the German auto industry, and globally, really.
Exactly. This car essentially kept Daimler-Benz afloat.
The production numbers really tell that story, don't they? I was looking at them earlier. In 1927, even with the early issues, they built 4,788 of them.
Which sounds like a decent number, but what percentage was that of their total output?
That's the staggering part. It was 61%.
Wow. 6 out of every 10 cars they made that year was this W02 model.
A model, remember, designed in a hurry and causing all sorts of internal grief. Incredible reliance on it.
And did production pick up after Nibel's changes in 29?
It did. 1929 was the peak year. They produced 5,640 units.
Makes sense. The improved car hit the market just as the economy was starting to turn. but before the absolute worst of the Depression hit Germany.
Right. And even later, as things got really tough, look at 1931. Production was down, sure, to 2,320 cars.
Which reflects the terrible economic conditions.
But that lower number still represented 70% of the company's total car production for that year.
70%. So its importance actually grew proportionally as the crisis deepened. The W02 wasn't just a model line, it was basically the company's entire financial base during that period.
It absolutely carried them through.
So when did production of the passenger car finally end?
The run ended in 1933. By that time, they'd built a total of 16,956 W02s across all its variations.
Quite a respectable number, considering its troubled beginnings.
And it was replaced that year by the W21 model, which sort of signaled the start of a new generation for Mercedes-Benz midsize cars, as the worst of the economic slump began to ease, maybe?
A real story of survival and adaptation, then.
Definitely. The W02, it really cemented the post-merger identity of Daimler-Benz.
Yeah.
It kind of proved that a fundamentally sound design, even one born from conflict and initial flaws,
could be refined, cultivated, and become successful. Quality and persistence winning out over, perhaps, initial technical brilliance or lack thereof.
it showed the importance of steady development, maybe overrushed innovation.
And maybe the importance of having someone like Nibel step in to sort things out after the initial, perhaps more volatile creative phase with Porsche.
That's a good point. But here's something to leave you thinking about. We said passenger car production ended in 1933.
Right, replaced by the W21.
But the W02 chassis itself wasn't quite done yet.
Oh, what happened?
Well, there were military versions. The Kubelwagen, those open-topped utility vehicles, sort of like early Jeeps,
Based on the W02.
based on this very
Oh.
W02 chassis. And production of those military Kubelwagen versions continued until 1936.
No kidding, 3 years after the civilian car was discontinued.
That's right. So the design that, caused such a fuss, got Porsche fired, needed a complete relaunch. It ended up being so fundamentally tough and useful that the military kept building it even longer.
That is fascinating. The controversial car becomes this enduring workhorse.
It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? How does a car known for its difficult birth and boardroom drama find its longest-lasting role as a basic, rugged utility vehicle for the military years after its civilian life was over?
It certainly speaks volumes about the underlying robustness of that original, perhaps flawed Porsche design.
Yeah.
Sometimes the simplest, toughest designs are the ones that truly last.
Absolutely, something to ponder. Thanks for joining us today here on Vintage Noise. We hope this look at the W02's journey inspires you to dig into the often surprising later lives of classic cars. See you next time.